yourself? Staying busy, running around, going from event to event, and just trying to keep up with it.
Oh, same thing. I can relate.
Yeah, yeah.
I think. So to start with, how did the entire thing, began from a point of figuring it out that cybersecurity is the place that you want to be, and then starting out your own gig, and then coming up with a YouTube channel, and then doing incredibly well there on that space. I think you actually should be proud of producing one of the best cybersecurity content on YouTube. So that's one amazing thing that you have been involved with. So just give me a gist of that.
Sure thing. Well, hey, thank you so much. I guess I got started probably in the whole technology computer sphere when I was a lot younger. I think 8 or 9. I was thinking, hey, I want to make video games, or I want to be a hacker like I see in the movies, or something, I don't know, that looks very cool because computers are interesting and they look like they're fun. And I like that you can
Great,
do so
great.
much creative stuff. So I'd asked my father, I asked my dad, like, hey, I want to have a website. How can I put together, what do I need to learn how to make a website? So he taught me HTML and CSS and, like, the beginnings of JavaScript and stuff like that. And then he said, well, if you want to start a website, you need to have a server. You need to be able to host it on something. So he got me this machine, a box that's running like Turbo Linux, old school distribution. And he said, all right, well, let's learn how to use Apache and Nginx, and let's create all this. So for that longest time, it was in the building mentality of like, hey, let's write software, let's create stuff. It wasn't until I got into my undergrad, or like went to school in
Right.
college, that I don't know. I went to one of the military academies here in the United States, the Coast Guard Academy, and they care much more about the security of applications that you create, right? Hey, it's cool that
Right.
you made this thing, but is it battle tested? Is it safe? Is it sturdy? Can it be beaten up? So that introduced me to vulnerabilities and exploits and CVEs and that whole wide world of cybersecurity. And I thought, okay, this is really interesting. This is kind of fulfilling, where you have sort of a good versus evil mentality, and defending against adversaries.
Cool, cool.
So it just felt like, man, this is fascinating, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Oh, good deal. Okay. Yeah. How did the YouTube thing happen then?
Oh, so
When did you
YouTube.
decide that?
Yeah, it's funny because the way that I was learning way back when in the beginning was I was Googling, and I was looking online and watching videos on YouTube of how to code, how to program, how to, I don't know, do work through tutorials. And I think, hey,
Correct.
that might be how a lot of people learn. And I thought, well, if I want to learn more myself, I think I've heard people say, hey, the best way to become a master of something or to get better at it is to try to teach it to others. So I thought, well, I can make some silly videos and showcase, hey, what I'm learning. So for the longest time, if you look back, you can even find videos from like 2009 or 2011, like a decade ago, on my channel. Um,
Sick.
but it's slow growth. I never expected it to, I don't know, kind of become what it is today. But it's very fulfilling and super sweet to see it has grown and blossomed and turned into something of its own.
Okay. So now something around the fact that I think you probably have been part of several bug bounty programs. You were involved in that. So what any nice experience that you can share, probably from the time when you migrated or you were just discovering, and then how did events, bug bounty events kind of helped you
Oh,
gather
totally.
your way around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll be the first to admit I'm not huge in the bug bounty scene personally. I do get together with a whole lot of incredible folks. I know Namsek, or Ben Sadegapur, Insider PhD, Katie Paxton Fear, Stoke, of course, and so many others that are interested and more in that and plugged in than I am. But whenever I hear from them, and whenever I get to see them in action for some live events, it's always just the determination and, like, hey, some really passion, curiosity, all the things that sort of keep having them pick and poke at something until they find a flaw or find a vulnerability. And then it's just exciting. It's like, oh, okay, I know there's something here if I keep pulling at it, if I keep trying to see what I could dig up. And you get a little bit of adrenaline rush where you're trying the next payload, or you're looking at the next, I don't know, idea and creative thing to test and to try, and then you see something in the result or the response is off, and that just leads you down a great rabbit hole to see how much more damage could be done when you found a bug. So I think that's totally what drives it forward. It's just the curiosity and the passion.
Deal. Okay. So I remember working with one of my, former colleagues, and one of the things that I think he really got really excited whenever a company was attacked. And I think it's a very hackers thing,
Yeah.
the way. Yeah. So I remember him pointing out, several times, when there are open buckets that the companies are still not aware of that. It has been compromised. How often do you find that? And then, how often do you probably find vulnerabilities, or how often do you find massive troves of data in the dark web? And then, the owner company, the parent company, has zero idea about it.
Yeah, I think it happens often is probably the safest and shortest way to address that. Um, if anyone were to kind of just spray out and look and try to, I don't know, cast a wide net on the open internet, see what IP addresses have what accessible on what ports. Like, sure, you could do Shodan or you can just kind of surf around, but you can just see like data hanging out. Like, hey, some weird random temporary HTTP server, I don't know, that someone spun up in Python and it's hosting some things you could pull down and grab. There's some weird ethical, moral conversations in there, especially, hey, if you pivot over to the dark website, right? I know you mentioned okay, yeah, there are organizations and companies that just might have data publicly shared. Um, and again, as you mentioned, hey, some organizations could be none the wiser. They might not even know. They have no clue that it's out there. So I think, hey, it's a matter of keeping your ear to the ground and hopefully having enough well-intended and good people, hey, security researchers, going to track that down and find it so they can raise awareness and bring education. So that's why I think it's interesting and kind of fun. Like, hey, let's see what's out there.
Right. Got that. Okay. Well, now I think we can something around that there is a lot of activity by lapses,
Oh
from
yeah.
Uber to GTA 6. Yeah. So, do you think lapses has evolved from the time where it was, and then, how much have been how much you think this particular gang has been, evolving over a period of time, from the time that you probably noticed?
Yeah. That's a super
Them in
interesting
action.
one. Because so I know Okta, excuse me, I know Lapsus probably from the most prevalent and prominent one that I know in my mind was Okta. When Okta had their breach, or there was some communications and chatter there.
Right.
And I think Lapsus had sort of like, hey, put the stake in the ground and was like, hey, yeah, that was us. We did that. And trying to kind of chest thumpy and saying like, this is, I don't know, or forced to reckon with. When Uber and now GTA and Grand Theft Auto have rolled around, I don't know. I I could be completely wrong. I don't know the rest of the story, and so I might be misinterpreting or just unknown to something. But I think their Uber has said, "Okay, we believe this is Lapsus," but I don't know if Lapsus has gone out and said, "Yes, this was us," and sort of
Right.
a strong will. Uh, I think there's an interesting thing where a whole lot of threat actor groups or cyber criminal adversaries or whatever like to be the braggadocio, kind of stroke their own ego and say and flaunt and say, "Yeah, we did that." Uh, as a weird proud thing. I could have been completely wrong. I might have missed it from Lapsus, but it's weird to maybe that's changed. Maybe they didn't want to do that this time around. I don't quite know. Um, but obviously, hey, when we have a new group or we have something new pop up, uh, it tends to stick around or just rebrand something else if it gets a little bit too much attention. So maybe that's the evolution that we're seeing, and the growth is that we still keep seeing them on the horizon.
Great, deal. In terms of their method of attack, do you think that has changed?
Can you mention that one again? Sorry.
In terms of the way they attack, the way they targeted companies before, and then how do they do it now? Do you
Oh,
think that has changed?
sort of. Weirdly, not really. I think what we're hearing right from what would have been the Uber incident was, hey, two-factor authentication sure was a thing. It was enabled. It was absolutely part of the issue. And because we keep screaming and shouting about that, a whole lot of defenders and security researchers and good practitioners say use multi-factor everywhere, as you should.
Right.
But when it was sort of weirdly abused in this Uber case, hey, we just kept
Right.
sending a push notification over and over and over and over again until it annoyed the victim so much that he agreed to it. It sounds like now people, and I think we see the industry starting to say, hey, don't use push notifications. Use something like a hardware key or a YubiKey or Windows Hello or some other metric form that isn't going to be sending a blasted notification. However, even the use of that differs from what we used to see in the past, in a way, because it just adds an extra layer of complexity. I think a lot of folks know, okay, this was due to some stolen credentials, and that's how it always starts. It's
Right.
always some compromised passwords, some username and login info, um, and that's a fascinating thing to me. Uh, I don't think that has changed, but some pieces of the attack chain certainly have.
Right. Right. Okay, now that you did touch upon, even now it is mostly, a compromised account, somebody's stolen password
Hmm.
has probably been the reason why, there have been attacks every day, probably. In that front, do you think, that there is still not enough? What's your take on that? Are companies still not really prepared to handle something like that, even though there has been so much of conversation about it? Is Why is still so much lack of awareness of employees?
Yeah, I don't. I think there is a whole lot of differing opinions on, hey, security and education and how to go about it, especially with something as simple as passwords. Like that still seems to be the conversation that we have to have, which is
Hmm.
weird and annoying. um I personally, and this is totally just a John opinion, I use a digital password manager. I generate, hey, some super random, extremely obscure, hey, 128 character length, random string of letters and numbers and
Okay.
punctuation. And I have the password manager handle that for me. It's probably overkill. It's probably way too annoying to use that many characters, but I don't need to know them. I don't need to know the password because, hey, okay, whenever it's autofilled, etc. Uh, and I think I advocate and scream and shout and tell people to use a password manager because I don't know my passwords. Like you could hold me for ransom or hold me at gunpoint, and I would not be able to tell you. I just don't know. I know there's one method that I think is really, really worthwhile, and I kind of want to see if I could get myself to continue doing this or if I can encourage others to. That passwordless mentality, which I think oftentimes is a buzzword, but if you are interacting with an account or with the service or some online application, reset your password every single time that you try to log in and never store the new extremely long random password that you choose because you can just reset it the next time. So there's
Okay.
no record of it anywhere. It's just sort of, hey, some random thing that you keep refreshing and retokenizing. Uh, maybe we could
There's
keep.
a lot of espionage activities that we have been seeing over the past
Hmm,
couple of years, and then I think it is not decreasing. Ever since the invasion of Ukraine began, things have just gone just spiraled out of hand. So what's your take on the entire the entire way the current scenario is? There is technically a global cyber warfare going on as we speak, and it's not really but, there's no direction that it is gonna stop anytime soon.
yeah, I can dance with that for a little bit. It is maybe a little bit doom and gloomish, right? And I don't mean to, hey, be on that fear, uncertainty, and doubt train, but you're right. Undoubtedly, there was a case that I was flattered to be working with and kind of in the trenches on some time ago. We It was some APT activity, like, oh, advanced persistent threat, which is
Right.
weird and wild to say, but it was, hey, using the baby shark malware strain, and you can find some articles and blogs if anyone is interested in this. But it was a partner or an organization that we were trying to help, and do some incident response and analysis for, because when we got to come into the environment, when they were just, hey, trialing what we do, we found this activity. There was, hey, some weird keyloggers installed, auto runs and persistent hooks that could tell that there is an active command and control kind of listening and beaconing here and there to just pull and query information. And that totally was information espionage. Like they were just exfiltrating and pulling data and trying to leak some sensitive stuff over a year. Like we'd seen the malicious activity in the environment for more than a year. And this
Oh,
organization was supposed to be some high level, like, hey, power national security place that handles important and politically powerful things. So we thought,
right.
well, this is a little spicy, targeting individuals and trying to get some real, warfare like
Right.
info. And I think that is common in all reality. That's part of the battlefield of, hey, trying to gain new information, being one step ahead of your adversaries. When it enters that digital era, when it enters a whole lot of computers and cybersecurity space, look in the corners and crevices. Like you need to be keeping an eye out, looking behind your shoulder, looking behind your back. Like, hey, where could things be hiding if you are in a place, in a position of stature where you could very well be a target? The way that we track them down is by hunting, hey, where are those auto runs? Where are those persistent hooks and implants and beacons? Uh, I don't know. I guess that's probably the best I could offer there. It's not going to go away, but you need to know when you're a target and how to act
Mhm.
accordingly.
Okay. 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 So any recent activity that you probably discovered, or you probably came across, because I think one of the things that is making a lot of rounds of late is quantum ransomware. I don't understand what that is.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I think. Do you know anything about it?
So and I have to be totally transparent because I know quantum ransomware. I've seen their Tor hidden service, whatever, dark web onion site. Um, and I know Quantum Builder, where Quantum puts together, hey, payloads or LNK files, like Windows shortcuts that can be used and abused to create like an exploit or to craft some toolkit, even with something as simple and as small as just a file like a URL or LNK shortcut redirector. I don't know if those are related, and I could be completely wrong or just not thinking of it. But Quantum Builder versus Quantum Ransomware, I think there's been certainly a whole lot of rise in conversations talking about the builder. Uh, it sounds so weird to say, but hey, Quantum Ransomware, you're just like, it's another ransomware gang. It's one of many. Okay.
Oh, okay.
um, some of the other stuff, if we're tracking, hey, current and news and events going on, I don't know if some folks were keeping up with the story of the Lockbit ransomware builder.
Yes, I
Um,
did see your tweet on that.
yeah, I had a lot of fun
Yeah.
kind of exploring that one in a bit. Um, if folks aren't aware, hey, Lockbit is one of the other ransomware gangs, and their 3.0 version, or called Lockbit Black, they wanted to call, was leaked, or the builder, the tooling and the chain and the software that would create the encryptor and then create the decryptor and handle the private keys and public keys, and basically give anyone who found this and got access to this builder the keys to the car. They could go and start their own ransomware gang if they really wanted to, because they could customize and they could play with what this tooling would give them. So that got a little bit of noise and hubbub in the news and media, because some folks are wanting to ask and understand, like, well, what does this mean? Or is this just an oops or a blemish for Lockbit? What about other ransomware gangs, and what about other threat actor groups, etc.? Um, so some interesting conversations to have from there. But I don't know. Some things that we again keep our ears to the ground and keep learning about as it comes out.
Right. Right. Okay. And I think lastly, what are the new trends that you are foreseeing? What are the new threat vectors that you think might be a lot more significant in the couple of in the rest for the rest of the year?
Ooh, such a, oh man, you're gonna hate me. It's such a boring and bad answer, but in my mind, it's the truth. It's funny because whenever folks come and ask, like, "Hey, what are your predictions for the next year, for the next 5 years?" I know it's not what you're looking for, but like just gonna see the same stuff.
Okay.
We're gonna see ransomware continue to do its thing. We're gonna see cryptocurrency miners. We're gonna see botnets. We're gonna see DDoS. Blah 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 blah. Uh, uh, I think yes, we'll see some changes. Oh, there'll be new techniques and new tricks to target cloud and all those other buzzwords that we throw around left and right. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be, hey, cybercrime taking advantages of human weaknesses, finding credentials out on the dark web, or deceiving and fooling people by giving them way too much spam and notifications. Uh, all those things are just going to keep happening. Uh, I don't know if we're on some sort of treadmill. I don't know if like, man, this is going to keep cycling over and over again. Are we stuck in the vicious cycle? But I think the best way that we can combat it and mitigate it the best we can is continued education and awareness, and just showing people and telling people about what we do and how we do it and how as a whole we can improve. So
Right. I love the answer. I love that part when you said, that's usually the last question that I usually throw around. What are your predictions? Okay,
sorry.
now that's usually the last question that I ask. What are your predictions for the future? But do you also probably foresee some activities around how the advancement in AI is happening?
Oh,
Do you think that might be one more added problem?
artificial intelligence, you were saying AI, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um I don't know. Again, I haven't drank the Kool-Aid just yet, and that's totally again just a John answer. That's personally. I think there are great innovations and super cool, creative new things that are coming out from that whole scene and that culture and artificial intelligence. When I see a whole lot of things like online tooling, you see silly websites like this person does not exist.com, or even stuff that can make a viral thread generator or craft, I don't know, some whole person's text and bio like GPT. And well, you've got the DALI AI generator now.
Yeah.
I think all those things can again potentially fool a victim or someone that's being targeted. That's something that I tried to write about a little bit. It was like, hey, you want to look out for those sock puppet accounts or people just trying to fake their online presence to gain information and get out of their activity. I think that will continue undoubtedly, and it's something that we just sort of not kind of need to be aware of and cognizant of, like, oh, the deep fake stuff, and when it comes to the other side of the coin, okay, not only using artificial intelligence for evil or for bad, right, for ill intent,
Yeah.
but also for good. How can we use that technology to protect and defend? Um, I don't know. I still think, hey, if we're building it into like an EDR solution or for antivirus tech, etc., ultimately, I still think, hey, it makes some mistakes. And we've seen that even in the this person does not exist.com. You can find weird warps and different things where just oops, it makes a mistake. Um,
Got it.
it still takes a human, it still takes our own eyeballs to sort of veto that and correct that and say no, I can tell that's wrong. That extra context is something that I think, I don't know, we still needs to be part of the equation. Keeping us people and human beings part of the fight is still necessary. I think artificial intelligence and a lot of that automation can supplement and augment what we do, but it's not going to replace it.
Got it. Nicely said. All right. I think probably my time is up. Ben, genuinely really nice talking to you.
Thank you.
We'll probably catch up soon on another interview on another topic. And then until then, all the best with with all of your activities, with all of your research, and just keep creating an incredibly awesome content on cybersecurity.
We'll try to. Thank you so much. This has been a real treat, and yeah, we'll keep in touch for next time.